Before beginning, I am very happy and honored to welcome my very esteemed senior godbrother, Dayananda Prabhu. His Grace Dayananda Prabhu has such a history of his loving devotional service to Srila Prabhupada that we would have to take the time of many full classes just to begin to describe. But he came to Srila Prabhupada in 1967 in San Francisco, the second center of Srila Prabhupada after 26 Second Avenue. And Dayananda Prabhu is the first temple president in Los Angeles, California. And Srila Prabhupada made New Dwarka, or Los Angeles, his national headquarters. He also helped to establish the first school of ISKCON in Dallas, and he helped to establish the first Sankirtan parties, book distribution. Is this special effects? Some sort of creative art that is. He was among the first devotees to go to Iran to begin the preaching there. He did so much service for Srila Prabhupada in India. And from my own personal experience, I met Srila Prabhupada first here in Mumbai, at Cross Maidan in India, then again in Vrindavan. And when my visa expired, I had to go to the West, and I stayed at the temple in Amsterdam, then London. And at that time, London was probably among the most successful temples in the history of ISKCON, on Berry Place. And when I arrived, just a little sadhu from India, the temple president was Dayananda. And I can very proudly say that under his directions, I washed pots. I was washing pots for all the devotees of Radha Landanishwar. And I was so grateful. And he gave me so much time. And he was also later president of 26 Second Avenue in New York City. And he's written wonderful books. So let us welcome His Grace Dayananda Prabhu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Utsritya Sarvata Sangam Vigyata Jita Samstiti Vayasakir Jaho Shishyo Gangayam swam kalevaram. Furthermore, after leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Vyas, Shukadev Goswami. And thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, entitled Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmin Boy, text number 3. Hare Krishna. We are reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 18, entitled Parikshit Cursed by a Brahmin Boy, text number 3. This first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that we are reading from has a very special, sacred place in the hearts of all of the devotees within our movement. In preparation to carry out the instruction, the appeal of his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, our beloved Srila Prabhupada, translated and compiled purports for the first canto. Srila Prabhupada, after he established our movement, he traveled all over the world. I believe approximately 12 times he circled the world. And we know that late at night, in the very, very early morning, when everyone else was resting, Srila Prabhupada would be writing his translations and purports, especially for Srimad Bhagavatam and Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. The first canto was written in certain ways as a foundation for the coming of his movement. It was written at the Radha Damodar temple in Sri Vrindavan Dham, beside the Samadhi and Bhajan Kutir of Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, the place of the meeting of the 6 Goswamis, the place where Sri Jiva Goswami established a library of the writings of the original followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was there that Radha Damodar arranged for Srila Prabhupada to spend several years preparing for taking this message across the world for the first time in history. When Srila Prabhupada boarded the Jaladuta He was 69 years old at the King George Dockyards in Calcutta. After going to Sri Mayapur Dham and taking the blessings from the Samadhi of his Guru Maharaj, going to Shantipur Dham and taking the blessings of Sri Advaitacharya, who performed tapasya and prayed constantly for Lord Chaitanya to come to this world. He boarded Jaladuta. It was going to be 38 days crossing oceans and seas. He only had a few rupees. He didn't know anyone. Jaladuta went south in the Bay of Bengal into the Indian Ocean, crossed into the Arabian Sea, went north to Cochin in Kerala. And there, several wooden crates containing the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam were loaded on the Jaladuta. And Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say, I was all alone, going to a foreign land. But he had the holy name. He had the blessings of his Guru Maharaj. And he had the Srimad Bhagavatam. They were all on the boat with him. We know in the Arabian Sea he had 2 heart attacks. He had seasickness. So many challenges Krishna put before him. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was in Radha Damodar temple, praying to Radharani and Krishna, praying to his Guru Maharaj, praying to Sri Rupa Goswami and all of our acharyas, he carefully studied the commentaries of all the great prominent acharyas. And in this holy place of Seva Kunj, where Ras Leela takes place, he meditated, he prayed, and then he gave to the world and to each and every one of us personally the Bhaktivedanta purports. Srila Prabhupada sometimes said that he didn't know how long he would have to live. He said, so I put everything that is required to know to go back to Godhead in this publication of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when Srila Prabhupada, of course, he went to Butler, Pennsylvania, and if you read letters between Srila Prabhupada and Sally Agarwal, most of those letter exchanges were about what to do with all the Srimad Bhagavatams. Because she was helping Prabhupada because he wasn't how America works. She was teaching him. And, and it was just last year that Her Grace Sally Agarwal departed from the world. And it's very wonderful. The day I landed in America, I was in Europe. A devotee picked me up at the airport in Chicago. And not that far from Chicago is Madison, Wisconsin. And that is where there was a memorial service for Sally Agrawal, being organized by her daughter, who Srila Prabhupada was playing with when they were little children. In Butler, Pennsylvania, there was a daughter and a son, and there's photos of Prabhupada playing with them. And Sally Agrawal's daughter said that my mother wanted Srila Prabhupada's devotees to lead the memorial service, to preside at the memorial service for my mother. She never formally converted from Christianity, but she loved Srila Prabhupada. Maybe more than many of us. And she was there really in her own way to assist Srila Prabhupada. She considered him the most wonderful, enlightened person she ever met. So when Srila Prabhupada came from Butler, Pennsylvania to New York, if you read in his diary, he was going to bookshops in Manhattan, trying to get the booksellers to sell the Srimad Bhagavatam. And if they didn't want to buy it because they didn't see the market, Prabhupada would just say, you take it, and if someone buys it, you could give me a percentage, I'll come back. In this way, this first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was at that time it was in 3 volumes, was such a sacred and important part of Srila Prabhupada establishing the foundation of ISKCON. And if we study this first canto, we see in Srila Prabhupada's purport such a brilliant, comprehensible, and practical presentation of Krishna consciousness. And his introduction, he wrote a summary of the whole life of Lord Chaitanya, who is the personification of Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna in the mood of his devotee to teach us how to be devotees, with the heart of Sri Radharani's compassion. In today's verse and purport, we find the emperor of the world, Maharaj Parikshit. That's very much this topic. Srila Prabhupada is describing Krishna as Ajita. He's unconquerable, and he's also inconceivable. And it cannot be simply by knowing academically, intellectually, that we can understand Krishna. He cannot be conquered by our intelligence. He cannot be conquered by anything we do or say. Yeyatamam prapadyante tams tataiva bhajamya. Krishna reveals himself according to how we surrender. Daivigeshu gunamayi mama maya durataya. Maya is supremely powerful. There is no possibility of a conditioned jiva to come out of Maya by its own strength. I'm not going to ask if you can hear because it seems that only complicates things. To take shelter of Krishna, to Thank you, thank you. To take shelter of Krishna, to surrender to Krishna, is the means by which we express our desire to love Krishna. And according to how Krishna sees from within our hearts, our sincerity, Krishna gives us understanding. And this particular section of Srimad Bhagavatam is so vital to understand how to practice bhakti in the context of today's world. There are so many troubles, so many challenges, so many disappointments, so many limitations, so many pollutions, so many reversals, so many things we really can't understand. Kaleradosa nide rajan. The Bhagavatam tells that this age of Kali is an ocean of faults. And it's not that the people in the world are just sitting on a shore looking at it. We are all submerged in an ocean of faults. That's life in Kali Yuga. So if you are in the middle of the deepest, hugest ocean of faults, and you're wet, do you become bewildered? Why am I wet? If you're in Kali Yuga, you're subjected to everything. But there's one benediction, that if we sincerely take shelter of the holy name of Krishna, we will be given. It's not that we attain, we will be given the perfection of liberation. So we could find excuses, justifications, we can criticize, we can question, our own faith and what people are saying, because we're wet with the faults of Kali Yuga all around us. If we choose to do that, we remain there. Or we could focus our attention on Param Drištva Nivart, Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtan. The prime benediction for all humanity, that Krishna has descended in his holy names. The Srimad Bhagavatam declares when Krishna left this world, everything was cast in the darkness of Kali. But then Krishna he incarnated in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam to give light. So in all the problems that are here, personally, collectively, looking at the world, and some of them very difficult, philosophers try to figure it out. But Krishna tells Vedaishcha sarvayaraham eva vidyo vedanta krit veda videvacha. Ultimately, all knowledge is meant sarvadharman parityasya mamekam sharanam, to surrender, to culminate in taking shelter of Krishna. And somehow or other, in this little span of life that we all have, we have the opportunity to fully absorb ourselves in this blessing. That is why Srila Prabhupada crossed oceans, endured strokes and heart attacks, and had to endure us, all of us, all of our troubles, to give us this blessing, to give us this chance. To be happy in this world is to be grateful for the blessing we receive. No need to be surprised by the miseries and the confusions and the quarrels and the hypocrisies of Kali Yuga. It's there. There's every reason to get depressed and angry and confused. But a devotee focuses on the gratitude of the blessing that we have received. Because actually in our own lives, that blessing is infinitely more powerful than Maya. Because it's Radharani and Gopinath's blessing. Maya Dyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharaja. According to the translations and the purports of the first canto, in the previous chapters that we're reading from, it is described that Kali Yuga entered at the time of the Battle of Kurukshetra. But because Krishna was here, Kali was dormant. Kali was here, but could not really create any effect. Now, in previous yugas, Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, we read there were reversals in those days too. There were demons, asuras like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, so many others. But still, the predominating energy, they were trying to interfere with that energy, but the predominating energy in Satya Yuga was goodness, longevity of life, brilliant memory, natural inclination toward piety. And the society at large was very, very much dedicated to sustaining an atmosphere of purity and enlightenment. It diminished in Treta Yuga, diminished in Dwapara Yuga, but in Kali Yuga, the personification of Kali means the all-pervading energy is going to be quarrel and hypocrisy and religion being irreligion and irreligion being religion, exploitation of the earth, exploitation of other living beings who are Krishna's children, exploitation of each other, exploitation of our own life, plundering it with so many distractions. Kali entered the time of Kurukshetra battle. We're just waiting for an opportunity. Kali was here, just waiting for that opportunity to strike. Couldn't do it when Krishna was here. After the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna personally oversaw the coronation of Yudhisthira Maharaj as the emperor of Hastinapur, which is the capital of the kingdom of the entire planet Earth. We read in Mahabharata, which is approximately 100,000 verses by Srila Vyasadeva. And then we read the very essence of Mahabharata and its explanations by the same author, Vyasadeva, in Srimad Bhagavatam. All of the difficulties that Yudhisthira and his brothers, the Pandavas, had to endure. Two of the primary scriptures are Ramayan and Mahabharata. A primary theme in both scriptures is the trouble that the good people had to endure. Ram, Sita, and Lakshman were banished, exiled for 14 years. And we read about all the different asuras they had to fight. They lived in wearing tree bark. Lakshman hardly slept. From the beautiful royal opulence of Ayodhya, they were living under trees, on the ground, eating roots. Just a few moments ago, I welcomed our ISKCON Prabhu. He's our temple president for Panchavati, Nasik. There's the Kalaram Mandir, it was just a little hut, little straw hut with some wood that Lakshman built for Ram and Sita. Ram would not allow him to build anything more, because we must honor our father's word. We're banished. We have to live with nothing in the forest. It was there near the Godavari River and the Kapila River, Tapovan, that Suparnaka came. And then close by in the Janastan forest, Kara and Dushan and 14,000 soldiers attacked. And they put Sita in a cave, Sita Gufa, yes? It's near the Panchavati where the banyan trees are. And while Lakshman guarded the opening of this little underground cave that Sita was being hidden in, Ram single-handedly fought the most powerful brothers of Ravana with their thousands and thousands of soldiers. Then Maricha came. Yesterday, His Holiness Bhakti Tir Damodar Maharaj was here, yes, and he gave the example of how Maricha it was at Vishwamitra Muni's ashram when Ram first came out of Ayodhya to help Vishwamitra Muni, Ram and Lakshman, that Subahu and Maricha both attacked pollute the ashram and destroy the sacrifice. And Vishwamitra Muni told Ram, you please remove them. He shot one arrow and it killed Subahu instantly. Then he shot another arrow, which was even louder. And it hit Maricha in the chest, and what a miracle. This is a razor sharp arrow. He took this, it hit Maricha in the chest, it didn't kill him. It just threw him 800 miles away into the ocean. So Maricha, after seeing Ram and experiencing his friend dying, and having, Maricha was a extremely powerful Rakshasa with all sorts of mystic potencies. And Ram was just, he was like a teenage boy. His father was so afraid for him to go out alone because he never had really left home before. When Suparnaka told Ravana that there's this beautiful girl, she's the most beautiful girl in the universe, and I know you especially like beautiful girls. I tried to bring her to you. In my selfless service to you, my brother. Actually, she wasn't thinking anything about Ravana at that time. She just wanted to enjoy Ram. She wanted to enjoy Ram. And because Ram was faithful to Sita, she wanted to kill Sita. She actually lunged at her with the intention of killing her and eating her. And Ram told Lakshman to stop her. Actually, the sound was nothing. Cut off her nose. Cut off her ears too. Yeah. And Suparnaka, she was a Rakshasi, but still she was quite proud of her beauty. So she was humiliated, she was in pain, she ran away. She told Kara and Dushan, her two brothers, you can't stand for this. They attacked, and when she went back to Ravana, he killed your brothers, he killed your armies. Look what he has done to me, do something. But most of all, you'll really enjoy Sita. So Ravana went to Maricha with this plan to become a golden deer, to distract Ram and Lakshman away from Sita so that he could abduct her. Maricha said, Ram? He begged Ravana, don't do it. I have seen Ram. In fact, I can't escape Ram. Ever since I saw him, he is the absolute truth. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's all powerful. This is what he did to me. Even though he's all beautiful, he's also, he's terrifying. Krishna reveals himself according to how we approach him. to mother, to Kausalya and Dasarat. He's just the most beautiful little boy. To Maricha, he's beyond the terror of death personified. He said, I am living in total fear of her. You see, here I am. I used to be a king and a rakshasa and all of that. Now I'm just living as a hermit in the forest, wearing tree bark, eating roots and herbs. Why? Because I'm hiding from Ram. But when I look at a tree, I see Ram behind the tree coming to get me. When I see a bush, I see Ram behind the bush coming to get me. When I look at the cloud, I see Ram coming from behind the cloud to get me. When I look at the sky, I see Ram in the sky coming to get me. When I see the sun, I see Ram in the sun come to get me. When I see the moon, Ram is coming to kill me, to punish me. Wherever I look, in the earth, in the water, in the fire, in the air, in the ether, Ram is always there. Everything I hear the sound of Ram coming to get me. Maricha was definitely Krishna conscious. Kamsa experienced that realization also. He said, I'm just hiding from him. Ravana, you have Sri Lanka, you've taken the wealth of your brother, Kuvera. You have you have more opulence in Sri Lanka than the king of heaven. You and your son have conquered the king of heaven. You already have Mandodari and so many beautiful queens. Practically a kingdom where constructed mainly of pure gold. Can you imagine? He said, just go home and be happy. But if you try to take away from Ram, you are dead, you are finished. Ravana was so arrogant by his own accomplishments, his own knowledge, his own strength, his own victories. He couldn't hear. And yesterday, Maharaj was saying that Ravana told Maricha, if you don't do what I'm saying, I will kill you at this moment. And Maricha understood at that point he was destined to die. It's better to be killed by Ram than Ravana. If Ravana kills me, I'll probably go wherever Ravana's destined. But if Ram kills me, I'll go back to God. So he took that form of the golden deer. This all happened in Nasik. And I haven't been many years, Sita Harana, where Ravana took the form of a sadhu, and then he kidnapped Sita. Just in the outskirts of Tarket, where Jatayu tried to defend Sita and perform the ultimate sacrifice of love. When Ram and Lakshman returned and found Sita gone, they were searching everywhere. Jatayu told, Ravana has taken her in the southern direction. In Kishkinda they met Sugriva, Hanuman, Angada and the Vanara army. And eventually there was the Great War of Sri Lanka. And Srila Prabhupada describes that because Ram was honoring the word of his father, when it was going to be one of the greatest wars in the history of the world, Ram could have gone back to Ayodhya or even sent a message to Ayodhya, send the armies. But in honor of him being in exile, he didn't do that. He gathered the monkey soldiers. Great battle of Sri Lanka was. And that was a previous yuga. So Krishna, when he was performing his wonderful pastimes in this world, Kali had no place, just waiting and waiting. After Yudhisthira Maharaj was coronated as king, we read in the first canto about his mother, Queen Kunti, who actually suffered the maximum of everybody through all of that. Srila Prabhupada gave an example, and it could be applied in so many ways, these examples, of a book called Shah Jahan. And somebody read the book not so long ago when it was written. Prabhupada was referring back to it. And it was all about the atrocities of Aurangzeb. And somebody asked the author, why didn't you name it Aurangzeb? Because that's what the whole book is about. There's not that much about Shah Jahan. And the author said, actually, the book is about all the things he's doing, his father suffering because of it. So when we think about the banishment of Ram and all of that happened, what was the heart of Kausalya, Ram's mother, Sita's mother, Lakshman's mother, from a perspective of love? And in Mahabharata, and in this section of Srimad Bhagavat, all the challenges that the Pandavas endured before the exile, during the exile, after the exile, the person who was affected maximum was Kunti, the Queen Kunti, because she's the mother. She's feeling so deeply for them. And when all the problems were solved, all the dangers and calamities were behind them, now Yudhisthira is the undisputed king. When Krishna is about to leave, Kunti's praying, Vipadashantu Shashashva Tatra Tatra Jagat. Krishna, let those calamities come again and again, because in the face of these dangers, I had nowhere else to turn except you. And in remembering you, I'm seeing you. And in seeing you, I'm not seeing, I can be free from birth and death. The Bhagavatam tells padam padam yad vipadam datesha. In this world, there is danger at every step. And it's not that it's like that for the devotees, and it's like that for everyone except devotees. It's like that for everyone. The world. But when we take shelter of Krishna, we receive. It's not that physically we're not going to grow old, get diseased, and die, but when we take shelter of Krishna, in Krishna's blessing, we are transcendental. So in that sense, a devotee doesn't ask for miseries, but sees miseries when they do inevitably come as like a signboard directing toward the mercy of Krishna. The signboard doesn't take you there, but it does show us where to go. And that is Kunti's lesson. And in Los Angeles, the temple that Dayananda Prabhu originally opened and was there for several years as the president, Srila Prabhupada spent, I think, about a month. He spoke every day, giving classes on the prayers of Queen Kunti. And Prabhupada wanted it to be made into a book, and it is, the prayers of Queen Kunti. His lectures, even tape recorded. It's always been one of the very popular recordings of, one of the very well-known recordings of Srila Prabhupada, where he's just reciting the Sanskrit of the prayers of Queen Kunti. And Srila Prabhupada spoke extensively from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj also. And they're both in the context of great tribulation and challenge. So Krishna returned to Dwarka after he stayed back for Kunti for some time. And Yudhisthira Maharaj ruled the world. And he's Dharmaraj. The whole world, the Srimad Bhagavatam describes the incredible spiritual, social, environmental, economical prosperity of this planet. And Srila Prabhupada writes, it wasn't just because Yudhisthira Maharaj was ruling. It's because Yudhisthira Maharaj, how he ruled. He loved every one of his citizens in every species of life, what to speak of what varna or ashram a human may be in. He loved them and cared for them as his own children. This is not my kingdom, this is Krishna's kingdom. And everything in this kingdom is Krishna's property, and everyone in this kingdom is Krishna's child. And Krishna has entrusted me with this responsibility for the physical, emotional, and spiritual upliftment and happiness of everyone. Because Yudhisthira Maharaj loved all the citizens and expressed it with such a sense of responsibility, the citizens loved their king. And when all the citizens love the king, and they see how the king loves all the citizens, then naturally all the citizens love each other. That's mathematically consistent, I think. That is ideal leadership. And Maharaj Yudhisthira, he's considering every one of his citizens as a child of Krishna in his care. And in this way, he brought justice to the wicked and protected the innocent. Maharaj Yudhisthira was so dear to Krishna. He was so surrendered to Krishna. And bhakti is so inconceivable. On one hand, he performs the Rajasuya Yajna. It's really a difficult yajna to perform. And the inner purpose of the Rajasuya Yajna is to establish the most important person on the planet. And usually it's the king that is honored in this way. But Yudhisthira Maharaj performed the whole Rajasuya Yajna to establish as the supreme, most worshipable person and who everyone should surrender to. He's personally and publicly demonstrating in the most grandiose and prominent way Krishna is the Supreme Lord. And at the same time, he's engaging Krishna to be his messenger. Krishna, give my, please, like a postman. This is my message. Deliver it to Duryodhana. And Krishna's going back and forth. He's a messenger. Krishna's doing so many simple services. For Yudhisthira's younger brother, Arjuna, Krishna's his charioteer. Krishna's watering his horses. Srimad Bhagavatam tells one day Arjuna, who had gone to Dwarka for a mission, he was very late in returning to Hastinapur. And Yudhisthira Maharaj, waiting, he began to see a natural phenomenon which was manifesting one inauspicious thing after another. This type of inauspiciousness in nature cannot exist in the presence of Krishna. He didn't, in his heart of hearts, he feared. Is Krishna gone? And then Arjuna arrives. He had never seen Arjuna like this. When they were banished into the forest, when they were in the most critical, crucial situations in the battle of Kurukshetra, when Abhimanyu, the son, was killed, he saw Arjuna angry. He saw Arjuna very much distraught. Now he saw Arjuna in a pathetic state. And Yudhisthira Maharaj was asking Arjuna, why are you like this? And he asked so many reasons why a person could be despondent. Did this happen? Arjuna explained. And how beautiful this chapter is. The previous chapter, Arjuna's explanation. Krishna, our everything. Along with the Yadu dynasty, they have all left the world. And without Krishna, Arjuna was powerless. But then Arjuna began to remember the instructions of Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. And he actually felt Krishna's presence again and restored his. So yes, Yudhisthira Maharaj and Arjuna, they were in the most profound, inconceivable separation from their Lord and Master Sri Krishna. And after Krishna left, then Yudhisthira Maharaj understood Kali Yuga is here. But still, Kali Yuga couldn't do all that much when Yudhisthira Maharaj was still the king. But he was taking control of the world. Yudhisthira Maharaj decided, my grandson, the son of Abhimanyu, who was the son of Arjuna, he's been trained. And he's been blessed in every way. He's qualified to be the king. Yudhisthira Maharaj coronated Parikshit Maharaj as the emperor. And in his love for Krishna, he also coronated, and this is on the page of Bhagavatam, he coronated Vajra, Krishna's great-grandson, to be the king of Mathura in Vrindavan. And then Yudhisthira Maharaj took off all his royal garments, just put on simple clothes of an ascetic. And without saying anything to anyone, he just left. He entrusted the world in Parikshit Maharaj's responsibility, and he knew he was equally qualified. And seeing their brother leaving, Arjuna, Bhima, Nakula, Sahadev, they all left also just to absorb themselves in remembrance of Krishna. It's really an example of the idea of succession in a very dramatic way. And Draupadi and Subhadra, they just seeing what was transpiring, they focused 100% of all of their attention exclusively on Krishna. Vidura had left Prabhaskshetra. And here, Srila Prabhupada writes in a purport, this is very special to understand. We're seeing the context that Kali Yuga is starting to appear everywhere. Influence and effect of the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. Krishna has left the world. Were those the reasons that Yudhisthira Maharaj gave up his kingdom and went to the Himalayas? Because we already read that in the absence of Krishna, in his separation, remembering his instructions, Arjuna felt Krishna's presence. The separation was still there, but the presence of Krishna in his instructions was an even deeper experience of Krishna, love and separation. Yudhisthira Maharaj was feeling that presence of Krishna in his instructions, in his heart, in his absorption. And as far as Kali Yuga's effects, that wouldn't be a reason for, it's not that Yudhisthira wants to just leave that for Parikshit Maharaj. Now that things are real bad, it's yours. So why did he give up the kingdom and go to the Himalayas? Srila Prabhupada explains. Bhagavad Gita tells what great people do, what leaders do. The people of the world follow that example. That becomes the standard of what is valued. Values are so crucial, individually and collectively, in our society. And really what is the understanding of values? It's very much Mahajano yena gatasa bandha yadyadacharati strestas. What leading people do, that establishes to the world what are the values that we should hold sacred. What is really important. And Yudhisthira Maharaj, from a spiritual spirit of compassion to all, he needed to set an example. The example is we shouldn't be attached to anything. We should perform our duties to the Lord, to the Lord's world, to the Lord's children. But the ultimate goal of life is not I and mine. It's to absorb our hearts and souls in Krishna. So as soon as somebody else was qualified to rule, Parikshit Maharaj, he gave all of his opulences, all of his power, all of his everything, happily, to Parikshit Maharaj, to show the world for all time to come that whoever we are, we shouldn't be attached to our position, we shouldn't be attached to our role, either when we're performing it or after we leave it behind. We should simply be attached as being the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. He wanted to set the example of the world. To leave everything and just surrender his heart totally to Krishna. But he was doing that when he was king too. But as an example to us. So now Parikshit Maharaj is king. We're getting closer to today's verse. Sorry. I don't know if you're hungry or I should stop or what, but I'm going to continue for some time. Parikshit Maharaj his goal of being king, like Yudhisthira Maharaj, was that everyone be Krishna conscious. Because it's that spirit of recognizing the presence of God and samsadhyat haritoshanam, whatever our role to please God is our true success. He lived it. He taught it. He facilitated that culture. The world was peaceful. And it's described, he got on his chariot. It had the flag of a lion. And he went to travel around the world just to, because he heard that there were some problems in Dharma in certain places. So he wanted to go. And the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says he went to conquer all opposition. But Srila Prabhupada is explaining that everything was already conquered. He actually traveled around to conquer a Dharma. Because, it was Kali Yuga, and Kali's effects was creeping in, kind of behind his back as far as possible. It's described at that time that Dharma took the form of a bull. Dharma is the personification of religious principle. And he was together with Mother Earth, Bhumi, who took the form of a cow. When they met together, they recognized the pathetic condition of the other. Dharma was standing on one leg and trembling. 3 legs were not there. He was in great suffering. And yet Dharma is asking Bhumi, the cow, why are you crying? You look so very miserable. Why is it that you're crying? And so many verses where he's inquiring for possible reasons why she's in such a sad state. Because Mother Earth is in the form of cow. Is actually everybody's mother on this planet. Thank you, Prabhu. I think they saw some people falling asleep. Consciously or unconsciously. So Mother Earth and Dharma was seeing the children of Mother Earth, the resources of Mother Earth were being exploited. And it's very interesting because in the 10th canto we find when there were so many powerful, greedy, arrogant kings like Kamsa or Jarasandha. Mother Earth, Bhumi, took the form of a cow at that time too. And she went to Brahma, the original guru, and explained, I need shelter. And Brahma, along with the demigods and Mother Earth, they went to the shore of the ocean of milk and they prayed to Lord Vishnu to come and save them. They took shelter. Bhumi was crying, not for herself, for us, her children. And Krishna responded to Mother Earth's tears, and he incarnated. And Bhumi was explaining, as long as Krishna was here, I was so happy because Krishna's lotus feet that has so many auspicious markings on them, they were always walking on me. I was being decorated with the dust of the feet of Krishna. And I was prosperous. The ecstasy was manifested as so much, my hair standing on end in the form of everything growing so flourishing. And she was describing the incredible prosperity physically, emotionally, and spiritually on the earth when Krishna was here. But after Krishna left, Kali took control. The personification, the energy of God. And how difficult for a mother to see her children suffering. We describe Kausalya's suffering when Ram was banished, Kunti's suffering when her children were put through so many crises. And here's Bhumi, our mother, the mother of humanity and all species, including the plants and the trees who are little spirit souls. Of course, we're all little spirit souls. In those forms who are all her children. When Krishna was there, everything and everyone was flourishing because there was Sanatan Dharma, there was compassion, there was love, there was respect. But now the mother cow, she's suffering piteously to see the condition of the world, the condition of her children. She's unable to even supply for her own children. How much that must hurt a mother's heart. You see your child in a condition, there's nothing you can do. Because this energy is preventing us. So they're having this discussion. And meanwhile, Parikshit Maharaj comes on his chariot, touring the world. He comes to the bank of the Saraswati River, and he sees a bull with 4 legs cut off, wobbling on one leg. And he sees a cow, and he sees this vicious, cruel person who's dressed in the garment of a saintly king. He's ruthlessly beating the cow and the bull. Beating and beating and beating. They're crying helplessly. And this person is dressed like a representative of God because the king is supposed to represent God. Seeing this hypocrisy, not only was he a dharma, but he was hypocritically posing himself as religion, as greatness, as the protector, the king. The innocent bull and cow are being beaten. They're crying. They're helpless. Parikshit Maharaj, he inquires from Dharma the bull that you have 4 legs representing cleanliness, austerity, mercy, and truthfulness. I see 3 are cut off. All that's left is the leg of truthfulness, and that's wobbling. It's about to fall. He's asking, tell me, is the miscreant that's doing this? And Dharma, he doesn't just say it's this person. He describes that there are various, actually, the verse is beautiful, but he's describing in, according to my remembrance, that there are various theoretical philosophies to describe why we suffer. Some say that we're suffering is in this world because it's our fault. Because what I have done, I have to suffer. Other people say it's because of the very super powerful people who make us suffer. Other philosophers say it's because of nature. Nature's to blame. It's causing us to suffer. And to expand on it, some people say it's because of God. It's God's will that we suffer. And all of these different things, why do good things happen to bad people? Why would a loving God want the people he loved to suffer? And because all of these things are very difficult to understand, there's so many arguments and so many logical, philosophical, scriptural ways of trying to explain why people are suffering. And Dharma said to Parikshit Maharaj, you can decide. And Parikshit Maharaj said, the cause of all this suffering is the inconceivable nature of the Lord's energies. The inconceivable nature of the Lord's energies. And this is a similar conclusion as Bhishma in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when he was about to surrender to Krishna for his last moment, the passing of Bhishma in Kurukshetra. He was asking this question as he was looking at Krishna and talking to Yudhisthira and the Pandavas. Why you Pandavas had to suffer so much? Why your mother had to suffer so much? You're so pure. You're the embodiments of Dharma. All you wanted to do was serve the Lord, love the Lord. Why did you have to suffer so much? And Bhishma, the great Mahajan, he said, it's inconceivable time. More or less the same answer as Parikshit Maharaj. We can't understand these things on an intellectual level. The brain has no capacity. The intelligence, the mind has no capacity. We can just get a direction. It's inconceivable. But we know the more from where it's all coming from. Forgetfulness of Krishna. There are so many instructions in the Vedic literatures. So many philosophical explanations of the spiritual and material realms. So many scientific evidences of the laws of karma, the laws of time, prakriti, purusha, so much. Srimad Bhagavatam, in one verse, it is describe all of these instructions, all of these teachings, all of these arguments. They're all meant to bring us to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Sarva dharman parityasya mamekam sharanam vraja. Abandon all varieties of dharma and just surrender to me. That doesn't mean we shouldn't follow dharma. It means the conclusion and purpose and spirit of all dharma is we surrender to Krishna by always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna. And that can't just be a theoretical idea. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna means to speak what's pleasing to Krishna, to act in such a way that's pleasing to Krishna. It's not just Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And then we make aparads to his devotees and we gossip and we do prajalpa and all of this stuff. We pollute the world. To always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna means to speak, to live in harmony with our meditation, absorption in samsadhya radhitosham, what pleases Krishna. So when Dharma was explaining all the various interpretations of why people suffer, and he's just kind of opening a window for, so many different philosophies. And, we're fighting over these philosophies. But Parikshit Maharaj is saying, it's actually inconceivable. The only answer to this question can be found when we surrender to Krishna. When we always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna in absorption. When we take the role of Das 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 Anudas, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He went deeper into this concept and revealed it in this way, to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opened the doors to understand this idea of how to please Krishna by always remembering him and never forgetting him. Preliminary is Trinadapi Sunichena Taror Ebasi Manina Manadena Kirtaniya Sada. This is foundational to understanding and practicing true Dharma. To aspire to be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant, forgiving, and giving as a tree. To find great joy in offering respect to others, not to demand respect for oneself. It is in this state of mind, with this aspiration in our life, that we could perform the yajna of kirtan constantly. We can perform the yajna of remembering. You see, you can't just remember Krishna And always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. It sounds like a simple injunction. All the Vedas come down to these two instructions. It seems so simple. When we first heard this, it sounded really simple. But to be totally absorbed in always remembering Krishna, never forgetting Krishna, is actually impossible unless Krishna reveals himself to us. And Krishna will only reveal himself to us when he's pleased with our sincerity. This verse, Trinadapi Sunichena, is Krishna in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the heart of Srimati Radharani speaking to all of her children. This is what pleases me. Make this your aspiration. Do not be distracted by all of the allurements of Maya in this. And Mahaprabhu explained, when we're actually aspiring for this Trinadapi Sunichena Taror Ivasahishna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari, then we will activate our life to be the servant of the servant of the servant of Gopinath, the Lord of the Gopis. Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayurdas Dasadas Sanudas. So Parikshit Maharaj understood that Kali, and this is the personification of Kali. It's not just one person. It's a person who's the personification embodied of the energy of Kali that's all pervading here in this world. Parikshit Maharaj took his sword and lifted it. And although Kali was pretending to be an almighty king, can you imagine how powerful the personification of Kali is? It's unimaginable. We see what he's doing in the world today. It's very powerful. And he's just beginning. We're only about 5,000 years into Kali. There's still another 427,000 years where Kali progressively becomes more and more predominant. And here he is, standing before Parikshit Maharaj. And when Parikshit Maharaj drew his sword of Dharma, the sword of his representing his bhakti to Krishna and compassion to all beings, Kali accepted total defeat. He was trembling in fear, and he surrendered to Parikshit Maharaj. No, he didn't surrender like a devotee is supposed to surrender to Krishna. He surrendered like, in World War I or World War II, when you're defeated, you don't want to be defeated. A devotee surrenders to Krishna because he wants to just be for Krishna. But when an opponent is defeated, they surrender in defeat. When a devotee surrenders, it's the ultimate victory. When Kali surrendered, it was just defeat. And he's surrendering, and he's saying, I surrender to you. Please don't kill me. Please don't kill me. And Parikshit Maharaj, he understood the will of the Lord. As a Kshatriya, if a person surrenders to you, leniency is the dharma of a kshatriya. And from a higher perspective, Parikshit Maharaj was a pure devotee of the Lord. And Krishna is in his heart, Paramatma. And the Paramatma is, he was going to come as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the avatar to give Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Goda Trisha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the most munificent, most merciful, most compassionate of all incarnations. He's Krishna himself, but he's revealing more compassion even than Krishna. Why? Because he's coming to give the simplest, most direct way of achieving ecstatic love of Krishna, prema pumarta mahan. Within this age of Kali, in such a way that anyone who very sincerely accepts his mercy, in one lifetime we can achieve that love of Krishna. The scripture tells what was accessible in Satya Yuga through 60 or 70,000 years of austerity, celibacy, and total absorption in meditation. In Treta Yuga, by the performance of inconceivably difficult sacrifices that nobody could do anything today like that. In Dwapara Yuga, by perfect worship of the Lord in every way. In Kali Yuga, in a short lifetime of just a few years, if we just take shelter of Krishna's holy names, we can achieve that perfection. Not just liberation, not just love of Godhead, but entrance into Vrindavan, where the supreme, sweetest manifestation eternally of love of Godhead is. To enter into the pastimes of Radha and Gopinath. That is Mahaprabhu's mercy. So in order for that mercy to be so munificent, then Kali had to be here. So Parikshit Maharaj, he tells Kali personified, you are asking for some place to be. Wherever there is illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating, you can preside and rule in that place. Today we would think he's given him the world. But in those days, Kali was very intelligent and realistic. He said, as long as you're king, none of those things exist. You're leaving me homeless. I'm surrendering. Give me some place where I can rule over, not through love and compassion, but through quarrel and hypocrisy. And in some places, Srila Prabhupada writes, he doesn't say quarrel and hypocrisy. He says quarrel and mismanagement. That's in the bhagavatam. we're talking about, the cause of all suffering, and we're laughing. That is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. So, Parikshit Maharaj, he knew what Kali was saying was correct. That in the loving leadership of Parikshit Maharaj, nobody wanted illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. People followed Dharma because they were happy. If you're happy, you don't have to do these things. Just yesterday, I was speaking with Dayananda Prabhu, and he was so beautifully describing his realization that that when we share Krishna consciousness with each other and with others, it should be in a way that people are happy, but happy with the right things, happy with the values of bhakti, of Krishna. Then we see, when we're happy in Krishna consciousness, then the philosophy of everything, of discriminating between the dualities of what is right and what is wrong, and what is favorable and what is unfavorable, it's very understandable. Param dristvani vartate. Experiencing the higher taste of Krishna is happiness. And then we may see what's going on, we may even have urges of the mind and everything, but we will choose what pleases Krishna, because we understand that's what actually makes me happy. Parikshit Maharaj, he said, I must give you some place to be. Wherever people have excessive greed for gold, you are the king. In those days, hardly existed. Everyone was happy. If you're happy within yourself with Krishna, by practicing bhakti, Krishna consciousness, then we could work for gold. Having gold is never happiness. Pleasing Krishna is our happiness. I remember, I've used this analogy before because I used to be a pujari. Srila Prabhupada said, a devotee should see gold as yellow stone. And then Prabhupada gave an explanation. This is analytical. Why is stool yellow? It's because you have jaundice. When you have the disease of jaundice, your stool turns yellow. So we should see gold as yellow stool. And yet, we're offering gold crowns to the deities. So why are we putting yellow stool on Krishna? It's not like cow dung. And Srila Prabhupada said, when gold is used in the service of the Lord, it has limitless value. Just as Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhakta Prayach. A leaf, a little water, a flower, if it's offered with love and devotion, it has limitless value. What is its value? That it pleases Krishna. That's the only value really that has meaning, is what pleases Krishna. That's the value of something. Our success in whatever we do or say is actually to whatever extent it pleases Krishna. So gold is one of the elements of Krishna. It's not that a fruit, a flower, a leaf, or water pleases Krishna, but not gold. Whatever's offered with devotion, with humility, without a sense of selfish, arrogant possessiveness. Ravana, his city was so much built of gold, and it was horrible. But then after Ravana was liberated by Ram coronated, even before actually, Vibhishan to be the king, and Vibhishan's a pure devotee. And it's not that he just melted all the gold away and just, threw it in the ocean. He ruled over it in pure loving devotion. So is the gold of Sri Lanka yellow stool or Krishna's spiritual energy? It depends on whether it's Vibhishan or Ravana utilizing it. And that's the truth of everything. We're speaking in this verse about the Lord's inconceivable energies. Srila Prabhupada many times taught us what is the difference between material and spiritual energy. Originally, everything is spiritual because everything's coming from Krishna. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. Aham sarvasya prabhavo mata sarvam pravartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanta. I am the source of all spiritual and all material worlds. Everything is emanating from me. The wise who know this and perfectly engage in my loving service and worship me with all their hearts. Maybe I'm just trying to justify that we have gold leaf on the walls. But it's not mine and it's not yours. It's ours because it belongs to Radha Gopini. Srila Prabhupada said when we find our happiness in giving pleasure to Radha Gopinath, then Krishna shares everything with us. Then whatever Krishna has is ours. Not I, me, mine. Us. If we think in terms of I, me, mine, we disconnect ourselves from Krishna. If we think of Krishna, then we understand Krishna sharing with all of us. And then we don't unnecessarily intrude on another person because we understand Krishna sharing with them. Who am I to interfere? Then there's paradukkha dukhi. Another person's happiness is my happiness. And another person's sadness is my sadness. Why? Because that's the way Krishna and Radharani feel. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanya bhavati bharata. Unless he felt for our suffering, why does he descend from the spiritual world again and again and again to reestablish Dharma? Why was Advaitacharya, who was Mahavishnu, Sadashiva, all-powerful God, why is Advaita sitting on the bank of the Ganges with tulsi leaves and manjaris and little Ganga water, crying and crying and crying, Krishna, please come. I cannot bear seeing the suffering of your children in this world. He's God. He's Atmarama. He's the source of all bliss. How could the source of all bliss be suffering? If Krishna is all light, how is there darkness? These are all very inconceivable things. Advaitacharya is not just like putting on a drama. We've had drama festivals where some of our devotees have played the role of Advaitacharya. And Srila Prabhupada, when he was in college, a famous director of dramas in Bengal, when he coached and trained this group of students for about 1 year to perform one drama, just one show. They practiced for almost a year for it. It was on Lord Chaitanya, and Srila Prabhupada played Advaitacharya. And Prabhupada said everyone in the audience was crying. So here is Advaitacharya, the source of all bliss, and he's crying because he's feeling the sufferings of you and me. And he's so humble. Even Mahavishnu, I can create all the universes just by breathing. I could destroy them all just by not breathing. Just by an inhalation and exhalation, I can create and annihilate the whole cosmic manifestation. Not just universe, the whole cosmic manifestation, limitless universe. I can impregnate all species of life with spirit souls just by glancing. I can activate time and the three modes of material nature simply by looking at the Mahatattva. But these people in Kali Yuga, I can't save them. Because they have to be willing to surrender to Krishna to be saved. He wasn't just suffering for the poor people who had poverty and diseases. He wasn't just suffering for the rich people who had so much. He was seeing anybody bereft of pure love of God was suffering. And he prayed for Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan and Srimati Radharani, the origin of all love and devotion and compassion, to come to this world, to give the people of Kali Yuga the opportunity for the highest revelation of love of God. So yes, Krishna's Paraduka Dukhi. And if we're devotees of Krishna, that becomes our life. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is identifying himself as a gardener who has so many fruits. And he wants to give his fruits away. His fruits are prem, the fruits of love of God. Premananda, the fruits that nourish us forever and bring us happiness. And Lord Chaitanya, in great concern, he's speaking his heart. Radha Bhava Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swaram. Krishna with the Mahabhava of Sri Radha. He's saying, I have these fruits of love of God, but hardly anyone wants to take them. And I have limitless fruits, and I only have 2 hands. He's not just speaking for the people at that time. He's speaking for all of his devotees for all time to come. He's speaking to you and me today. Please the Lord of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Pati, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, the proprietor of everything that exists, Ambija Pratapita, the father and mother of every living entity, Sarva Karana Karanam, the cause of all causes. He's humbly asking us, please help me to distribute these fruits of love of God. And you will be most dear to me. That is the value system of a devotee. What makes us dear to Krishna? Not, how many numbers are in our accounts, or how many numbers, how much money's in our bank account, or how many followers we have on Instagram or Facebook. Not, how many gold medals we have. What's really valuable is how we're dear to Krishna. Because that's reality. Everything else is illusory. And everything illusory is a source of bondage and leads us to suffering and death, however nice it may look today. But if it's connected to Krishna, by pleasing Krishna, in service of servant of Krishna, and we're dear to Krishna, then whether it's a leaf, a flower, or a city of gold, it has unlimited value. Whether we're Hanuman carrying mountains, or we're little squirrels and just carrying pebbles. The sincerity of our intent to please the Lord is the true value of life. Nasta prayesha padreshu. In a world of distractions, it's necessary to hear Krishna Katha every day. Because we need to be reminded, we need it to be reoriented. We need to chant the holy names very attentively every day. We need satsang, the association of devotees who remind us, inspire us, support us. Because Maya is very strong. Srila Prabhupada said the trouble with you people is you're not afraid of Maya. If we understand the power of Maya, if there's a blazing forest, if there's a blazing fire in our house, you probably won't, see what somebody's talking about on your computer. You'll run out of your house. You'll run to the door. But this whole material existence is described samsara davana lalito. It's a blazing fire. Srila Prabhupada, our founder Acharya, our Guru, on behalf of the whole parampara, is giving us an understanding that this world is a blazing fire. Today people want to be cool. But from a spiritual perspective, you're cool when you get out of the blazing fire. And the only way out is to surrender to Krishna. There's no other way out. And that's paradukha dukhi. So here we find we're still approaching today's verse. if I'm going overtime, my justification is I'm leaving tomorrow. I may not be back for some time, so um, I'm taking this opportunity to. You are. I'm taking the opportunity for all of you to practice Toror Ivasishnu. Practice being tolerant. This is Parikshit Maharaj. This is his power. So Kali, just completely, he goes away and he really doesn't have any power anywhere. Even this greed of the hoarding of gold, that was practically non-existent. And again, whether we want to just describe it as the seasonal plan of Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, and Kali Yuga, there are so many ways or perspectives of describing and understanding the reality of why Kali Yuga exists. But ultimately it is the Lord's plan of creation. As long as Parikshit's here, Kali was basically still hiding. So a little Brahmin boy, Shringi, he was the agent to give Kali full facility. Parikshit Maharaj is in the forest. Whatever he's doing is in love and devotion to the Lord. And somehow or other, by the yoga maya potency of Krishna, he acted first time in his life completely out of character. He got really thirsty. He was so thirsty, he kind of lost his intelligence. He went to the ashram of Samigrishi because he's in the middle of the forest. There was no water around. And he asked the rishi for some water, and Samigrishi was totally absorbed in his meditation. He didn't know Parikshit Maharaj was there. But Parikshit Maharaj was thinking, I'm the emperor. I come to your little hut and you don't even open your eyes. What to speak of give me water? And there happened to be a dead snake just laying. So with his bow, he picked up the dead snake and made it like a garland and put it on the shoulder of Samigrishi. Then he left. And after he left, he was feeling really guilty. Parikshit Maharaj, why did I do that? I would never do that. Why? And Samigrishi, he comes out of his meditation. He sees a snake. He couldn't care less. He just goes, just. It was a dead snake. It wasn't like a dangerous snake. It meant nothing to Samigrishi. But his little son felt that his father and his family was insulted by the king, and he became overcome with illusion and anger. And this little boy cursed Parikshit to die in 7 days by the ferocious bite of a snake bird. Well, this is actually a very horrible death. It wasn't like, he should just die peacefully in his sleep surrounded by loved ones. It's being killed by a snake bird. And this particular snake bird was like an enormous monster. And the poison was inconceivable. So Parikshit Maharaj gets this message. Samikrishi comes to... Parikshit Maharaj could have reversed the curse. Reverse the curse. But he accepted as the plan of the Lord. Just like Yudhisthira Maharaj, he actually left all of his opulence, all of his power, all of his family. He left his life itself in this world just to set an example for others. Parikshit Maharaj, he accepted it as the will of the Lord because he understood, I could set an example for others. What an opportunity. I have 7 days to live. Parikshit Maharaj he thought this is an example. He didn't even get angry with Shringi. He's the emperor. He could have punished him. He could have sent his armies, punished that little boy who's cursing the emperor to die. No, he just forgave everyone. Tolerant. This is my calling. And like Yudhisthira Maharaj took off his clothes and went to the Himalayas, Parikshit Maharaj just put on very simple dress, left his kingdom, left everything, and went to the bank of the Ganges to be with saintly people. There was a gathering of great saints, sadhus, rishis, yogis, gurus. And so many people came because they wanted to be there for the king. It describes who was there on the bank of the Ganga. And here's Narada Muni, Vyasadeva, Gautam Rishi, Bhardraj Rishi, Parasara Muni, Valmiki Muni, Vishwamitra Muni, and so many. They're all there. And Parikshit Maharaj comes and bows down to all of them and begs them to please explain to him what is the duties of a man about to die. What is the first and foremost duty of every human being? What is the very essence and purpose of all dharma or religion? Now, whoever is going to give the answer is going to really be world famous forever. None of them wanted to take that position for themselves. They just wanted whatever's best for the king and for the world. And in the middle of all of this, a 16-year-old boy enters the assembly from the forest, Sukadev. Now, some of these rishis, as far as age goes, they were there during Ram's Leela. Narada Muni, he's in every Leela. I mean, you're here. Narada Muni was born practically from Lord Brahma at the very beginning of the creation of the universe. So there's very senior people there. But they all unanimously, harmoniously agreed because they only wanted the Lord's pleasure. Let 16-year-old Sukadev be the guru of this assembly. They all sat at his feet. And in the service of all of them and the king, Sukadev Goswami took the dais. And he had 7 days to speak the Srimad Bhagavatam. And his father's there. Who was his guru? I mean, his father was his guru. And Narada Muni was his param guru, his father's guru. And they're all there, listening attentively as Sukadeva is speaking. Listening to the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadeva Goswami. And when they're up to the 10th canto, which is probably, Parikshit Maharaj has been there probably 4 or 5 days. And he vowed not to eat or drink anything. He hadn't had a drop of water or tasted a morsel of food in all these days. He's fasting till death. And he's blissfully telling Sukadeva Goswami that previously, just for a couple hours, I was so thirsty for water, I lost control. But now I haven't had a drop of water in so many days, and I'm not even experiencing a drop of thirst because I'm tasting the nectarine Ganga of your Krishna Katha. This is to justify if you're hungry. I'm sorry. My beloved God brother Dayananda Prabhu, he's gazing upon me like a fatherly older brother and smiling because he's so encouraging. Parikshit Maharaj, when he was in the womb of his mother, his whole life is so extraordinary when we understand it in context, with him sitting on the bank of the Ganges hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadeva Goswami. His father, Abhimanyu, was unfairly, irreligiously killed in the Battle of Kurukshetra. The son of Subhadra and Arjuna. Uttara was the mother. Abhimanyu was killed. His wife was pregnant. So you can imagine the grief of the Pandavas. Not only are they grieving because their own son is dead, but their grandson is without a father. And while he's in the womb of Uttara, Ashwatthama, the son of Drona, he sees that a little later the Pandavas were victorious. But somehow or other he was still living. He wanted revenge. Revenge for the death of his own father, Drona, who was at the time the commander-in-chief of the Kuru army. He killed the 5 sons of Chowpatty when they were sleeping. There's a whole story of the reaction of that. But that wasn't enough. There there was still one more member of that dynasty that was alive. And that was the child in the womb of Uttara. By his Kshatriya powers, he invoked a Brahmastra, like a nuclear weapon that has such precision. It has the power of a nuclear bomb, but it could kill a child in the womb without even harming the mother. And it doesn't need all kinds of scientists working for generations to develop higher technologies and radar and all of that. He just sipped some water and chanted a mantra, and the Brahmastra. And it came right toward Parikshit Maharaj. Seeing it coming, Uttara, the mother, because the child is just in the womb. And Parikshit Maharaj, by Krishna's grace, he could see what was going on in the womb. He was quite developed, I guess. He was seeing what was going on, but he was totally helpless. Because a child in the womb is absolutely 100% totally dependent on the mother. You know, all the father can do is make the mother happy. That's the father's connection with the child in the womb. Father's dead. Uttara's praying to Krishna with all her heart and motherly love. Please save my child. I'm just a simple mother. And this powerful warrior is sending the almighty Brahmastra weapon at me. And the Brahmastra actually entered into her womb. And Krishna came right there. And he eliminated the Brahmastra. And Parikshit Maharaj had darshan of Krishna's doing this. Before he was even born, he understood Krishna's my only shelter. And then he was raised by the Pandavas. Subhadra, his grandmother, is Krishna's sister, the Yogamaya power of the Lord. He was raised in that environment. There's a place I believe it's here in the first canto where Srila Prabhupada where it describes Parikshit Maharaj, how he was nurtured from his infancy by seeing the example of the pure devotion of his we could say his fathers, in the sense that the Pandavas, his grandfathers, and his grandmothers, and his mother, Uttara. And Srila Prabhupada said, similarly, when I was a little boy, when I would wake up in the morning, I would see my parents worshiping deities of Radha Govind. And from that age, he centered his whole life around Radha Govinda's service. Example. So Parikshit Maharaj, before his birth, he not only saw Krishna, but he saw Krishna as his only shelter. And then he grew up in an environment where everybody, their only true value in life was simply pleasing Krishna, serving Krishna, and loving Krishna. And now he's cursed to die in 7 days. And he's seeing Krishna. Before he left, years before, Parikshit Maharaj, he married the daughter of the king of Irata, whose name was Iravati, and he had 4 children, 4 sons. And the eldest of the son was Janamejaya. So when Parikshit Maharaj was cursed to die in 7 days, full responsibility in his service as king. He had trained Janamejaya, his children, to the best of his capacity. He coronated his eldest son as the king. It was obviously, everything was, I guess as we say in today's world, fast track. He had 7 days to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam. So he coronated his son as king and then left the Ganga. And that brings us to today's verse. Furthermore, I will emphasize this beautiful word Srila Prabhupada uses, furthermore. That means furthermore. After leaving all his associates, the king surrendered himself as a disciple to the son of Yad, Sukadev Goswami. And thus he was able to understand the actual position of the personality of Godhead. So in reference to this wonderful word, furthermore, he's giving us an example. He's much older than Sukadev Goswami. He saw Krishna in his womb, in the womb of his mother when he was an embryo. He was born and raised a pure devotee of the Lord. Why is he surrendering it as a disciple to a 16-year-old Sukadev Goswami? To set an example. But the beautiful thing to understand about his setting example, he wasn't just doing it externally to set an example, but his emotions, his spirit, he meant it. Lord Chaitanya, at one time he said, I have no love for Krishna. What is the use of my living? It's not that he was saying it for our benefit, but he was actually genuinely feeling it to show that the more you have love of Krishna, the more you feel you have no love for Krishna. It's not that just the material energy is inconceivable. The spiritual energy is even more inconceivable. The gopis have the most love for Krishna. And Radharani has the supreme most love for Krishna. But she offers prayers. I have no love for Krishna. Otherwise, why would he leave me? This is the inconceivable nature of the spirit of love. on the highest level of Ananda. What is our position? I'm thinking I'm a more advanced devotee than you. Advancement means love for Krishna, nothing else. Lord Chaitanya is saying, I have no love for Krishna. And I'm thinking I have more love than you. What does that mean? That means I really don't have any love for Krishna. Vaikuntha consciousness, Prabhupada said, is when a devotee thinks every other devotee is better than me. Do you remember that? Yeah. So when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is revealing his heart, I'm most fallen. I'm more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. I'm lower than a worm and stool. He's taking shelter of Krishna in this mood. He's praying to take the dust of every devotee, even the brand new devotee. Taking the dust means you're begging for blessings. And Srila Prabhupada emphatically spoke. He's not just saying this as a poetic expression. He's feeling this. So Parikshit Maharaj is accepting Sukadev Goswami as his guru. Krishna accepted Sandipani Muni as his guru and served him humbly. Balaram's the original guru after Krishna, teaching us how to love Krishna. And he's accepting Sandipani Muni and his wife as his guru. Lord Ramchandra accepted Vishwamitra Muni as his guru. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Sripad Ishwara Puri as his guru. Not just officially, but yearning to learn and an eagerness to surrender and serve. Nityananda Prabhu accepted Madhavendra Puri and Lakshmipati Tirtha as his gurus. Their example is not just what they're doing, but what they're feeling. What their spirit is. Parikshit Maharaj is surrendering to Sukadev Goswami. His example of humility, his example of surrender. And he's a Paramahamsa already. When we discuss the 9 processes of devotional service and how each devotee attained perfection by following one of them, the example of attaining perfection through Shravanam or hearing is Parikshit Maharaj. Simultaneously, he was already perfect, but yet he set an example of attaining perfection. And Sukadev Goswami attained perfection by kirtanam, by speaking. He was perfect, but yet he attained a perfection by speaking. Prahlad Maharaj, he was offering his prayers to Nrsingadev, after he already showed when they were throwing him in pits of snakes and throwing him in fire and stabbing him with tridents and throwing him from the top of mountains. They were feeding him poison. He was just chanting the names of Krishna in bliss. And when Nrsingadev came, he offered prayers. And we read, he attained perfection by offering those prayers. So these are mysteries of bhakti, which we cannot really intellectually grasp. But if we're sincerely trying to please Guru and Vaishnavas, then Krishna will give us a glimpse of what it really means. Parikshit Maharaj is showing by his example how to achieve the ultimate perfection by hearing the glories of the Lord. Who is Ajita, unconquerable. Why is this name so important for us in this context? Because in this world, especially in this age of Kali Yuga, to have faith in the shelter of the Lord is revealing He's unconquerable. And by taking shelter of the Lord, Shri Radha Gopinath, then Maya will be conquered. Not that you and me or anybody else could conquer Maya. When we take shelter of Krishna in our life, Maya will be conquered. And even while we're getting sick, and even when we're hungry, and even when we leave the air-conditioned temple hall and it's really hot, and even when, somebody who doesn't like us says something against us, all these things are still going on in this world. But if we take shelter of Krishna, we conquer our attachments to anything except how to be dear to Krishna. That is the matchless gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us to share with each other and with the world. Let us find the greatest joy in hearing the glories of the Lord together and chanting His holy name. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gauda Chandra ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Shri Gopalji ki jai, Ananti Koti Vaishnava Brinda ki jai. Thank you very much.